Manx Radio's Countryside is brought to you by NFU Mutual.
Hello and welcome to this week's Countryside programme here on Manx Radio. I'm Simon Clark.
And I'm Kirree Kermode. This weekend I popped along to Bollabeg to the Southern Vintage Tractor and Engine Rally.
I caught up with David Brew, farmer from Ballykinnig in Smeale, to find out what he's been up to and how the season has been for him so far. And also, I went along bat counting with the Manx Bat Group. Well, firstly, Kirree, plenty to fit in. The last in the current series of Countryside. We're having a 4-week break, so we've got lots to fit in. We'll talk about the vintage show very shortly. But firstly, I got the thoughts of a well-known contributor to Countryside in previous years, David Brew, who farms at Ballykinnig in Smeale. And like everyone, probably a busy time for him at the moment.
It seems to be non-stop now throughout the year. I don't really get a slack time, really, to be honest. No, I really don't. Maybe from now, maybe July, part of June and July, that's probably the least busiest of the year, really.
Well, you're not concentrating on one thing on your farm either, are you?
No. I mean, sheep and cereals rotates around sheep and cereals. And so that sort of spreads the workload out throughout the year, really.
Yeah, and you talk about the cereals. You've been involved with the wheat growing for quite a number of years, David.
Oh, probably 30.
Really?
Yeah, probably 30 years. And I would think the island's been self-sufficient now with wheat. When I say self-sufficient, supplying Laxey Glen Mills self-sufficient. Obviously, there's a lot of imported bread and flour brought onto the island. So, if that didn't happen, then probably we wouldn't be self-sufficient. We probably have to grow twice as much wheat to offset that imported bread and flour.
Wouldn't be a problem, though, would it?
It certainly wouldn't be a problem. Certainly wouldn't
be most
be a
welcome.
Problem. It'd be most welcome. Absolutely, it would, because trying to find any enterprise that sort of produces and returns a margin is becoming ever more difficult.
Why is that? Is it just competition from cheaper things elsewhere that causes it?
Scale of agriculture here. It's pretty basic. It's pretty simple. We're trying to compete with imports from the UK, and maybe where certainly their livestock or average farm size could be 400 or 500 acres, whereas your average farm size here, commercial farm size here, has probably gone up from what it used to be. Because to be honest, now I don't think a commercial farm can survive under 200 acres here.
Really?
Not thrive, but just survive.
Yeah.
And it's that difference in scale and the scale of operation and the costs involved in that scale of operation that basically makes Manx agriculture, in reality, probably uneconomic.
Yeah, and that's that role, I suppose, where there was 50, 30 or 40 acre farms around the north, where now there's, like you were saying. And
of course, historically, that was the reason why the Marketing Acts were brought in 1936, was to actually protect home production and stop basically more efficient farming countries dumping food onto our small community. Where basically we couldn't compete with that price, but of course that protection has gone.
Last time I spoke to you, a while ago now, but you'd started in the Lupins, not selling flowers at the gate or anything.
No.
How is that going?
Well, I mean, it's sort of all. If you're in a rotation with grass and arable crops. Which is predominantly wheat here. Another way where you can break the disease cycle of wheat, and also get an element of off nutrition back into the ground is with pulses, whether it be peas, beans, or lupins. And especially if you're incorporating the sort of the aum or the straw from any of those pulses back into the ground, and they also sort of fix nitrogen into the ground, you're getting a beneficial effect from growing pulses, and also you're producing sort of home produced proteins. And most protein is probably imported from America, which is genetically modified. So that has to be a good thing if you can grow it locally here on the island and put that into the food chain. That has to be a good thing.
David Brew from Smeale. Well, telling us how difficult it is on the farms, and particularly this year, Kirree, with that weather that held all the grass back. But 2 or 3 years in a row, really, that have been affected. Never easy.
The seasons seem to be shifting something unbelievable this last few years. Nothing's ever as it was the year before or the year before that. And many farmers would farm to a calendar. So the 17th of May, we'd start cutting the silage, for argument's sake. But now those dates are shifting, either backwards or forwards. And it's making a real hard task of farming. And like David says, he's busy all year round now.
Yeah, indeed. Hard to keep up with it. Well, David was there with his pretty new John Deere tractor. There wouldn't have been many of them about where you were, Kirree.
No, it was quite funny. There was a couple parked in the car park that had actually towed trailers down with the vintage ones on them. But no, an absolutely wonderful display there at Bollabeg at Walker's Bell Abbey, in courtesy of Sarah and David Quayle. I popped along and I caught up with some of the people there with their items and some of the people that organised it. So Jenny, here we are at the homestead, tent of, wonderful things in here.
Yes, well, the reason why there's so many Singer sewing machines on the Isle of Man is because in 1923, this boat, the Clan McAllister, set off from Glasgow from the Singer factory with a cargo of singers, hand cranks and treadles, and they ran aground. They were on the way to Liverpool to collect more cargo, then going to America. The good people of the Isle of Man rescued them all and took them into their homes and plied them with food and drink. And the next morning when they went back, funnily enough, there was no machines on board the ship.
Oh, goodness me.
And even to this day, on the Calf, the irons for the treadle were used in some places to build walls, and they're still there and you can still see them.
Well, what a story, and who would have known that? My goodness me.
So that's the story of the boat. So whether any of these singers were from that cargo, we don't know. But that's why, at least in the south of the island, almost everybody had a Singer sewing machine.
Well, I never, because now we always see them like, oh, they're a collector's item, and or wonderwear, that's really quite rare, but obviously not now
not
so
on the
much.
Isle of Man, yes, but some of these are different. This is a Jones.
Nice.
This was made
Beautiful,
in Manchester,
isn't it?
and this apparently came from the original Nobles Hospital, and it was used in their sewing room, and they used it for sewing bandages and sheets and all that kind of thing.
Goodness, wow.
And it still works perfectly. That one we found in a skip, and it's a German Fisted and Rossmann, and it still works beautifully, but somebody had thrown it so hard they snapped off the ironwork at the end with a hand crank.
Gosh.
But luckily a friend was able to weld it back on for us. So that, all of them work. And the treadle machine, there is, now I never know the name of the road, where Strand Street is, and then it's not Strand Street as it goes to the harbour, where Marx's is there was a shop was sold, and the people who bought it cleared out underneath, and there's all these tunnels, and who knew all that was under there, and in the cellars underneath, and they found this, so we put it on Facebook and I bought it. So we had to get it up these tiny little windy steps, and Lord knows how long it had been underneath there. Got it going.
As good as new. It's gorgeous, isn't it?
It sews beautifully. Absolutely, it sews beautifully.
And in comparison to a modern day sewing machine, you see them on Amazon for sale for very little money. These here would outstrip them.
Yeah, they don't sell for very much. I mean, sort of in America they do, because they're very, very popular and they're very difficult. Midwest, where everybody was making quilts with the pioneers and all of that, then yes, there's quite a few, but East Coast and West Coast, not so many, and they go for, I don't know, $600-700.
Wow,
unbelievable. If we could ship some of these out there, we'd make a fortune. I've got about 30.
Oh no!
Yeah.
How'd you find room for them all?
Kids left home and I filled their bedrooms with sewing machines. That's why.
What a display, Andrea.
We've got a nice selection, we think, of prints that members have entered during the last season at the Southern Photographic Society. So you can see we've got flowers and night skies, boats, motorbikes, natural images, birds, all sorts. So it's just a little selection of work that members have done during the last year.
The one that's really caught my eye is that Singer sewing machine. I was just chatting with Jenny up there in the homestead tent, and how beautiful they are, but that image has just captured it, hasn't it?
Oh, thank you, that's one of mine.
Is it? Well, I never.
It was for a competition that was themed vintage. So it's a proper old vintage sewing machine, so it seemed to fit the theme.
It really did. And I quite like the way that people have used maybe some of the modern editing tools to sort of make them a little bit different.
Yes, I mean, we've got all sorts of, we have members of all levels, all interests. Some are quite, as you can see, quite practiced in Photoshop and the likes of that, and others are more, take a snap. Some of them even enter pictures they've taken on their phones, so we've got a huge variety of members. Yeah.
And that was the question I was going to ask you, because lots of the cameras generally are very expensive, and maybe not everyone can afford them, so it doesn't necessarily have to be the professional equipment.
No, that's one of the things we say, please do come along, have a look. We've got really experienced members with top of the range cameras, and then we've got people who just use a compact, or as I said, even some on their phone. So it shouldn't be a barrier to getting involved in photography. Anybody can come along and join and take part.
And for the categories here, obviously a wide range, is that something you have within the organisation, where if you're into nature in particular, you sort of hang around with more nature people that are sort of giving knowledge, isn't it, I suppose, and passing on tips and advice?
That's right. I was talking to one of our members earlier who's really interested in bird photography, and I was saying he's actually inspired me to go start looking at birds. So you can see we've got people who are into sports, vintage, transport, the railways, some people who do beautiful still lifes, the dandelion seed there.
That's an incredible picture.
It's a beautiful image, yeah.
And they can get, they can see these photographs online as well. Andrea, is that possible? Do you see a selection of what work there is?
Yes, we've got a website. It's southernphotographicsociety.org, or we're on Facebook, same thing, Southern Photographic Society, and there's always a variety of images on there.
So, Peter, a fantastic day here at Walker's Bell Abbey. What a display!
Yes, we've good display. It's the best I've seen it for a year or two, and of course the weather as well has brought the people out.
It really has, hasn't it?
And of course with Peel being on today as well,
Yeah. But I think the Manx people are looking for something to do, aren't they? They've been locked down, and us Manxies don't like being locked in, do we?
Oh no! Especially when you're locked down and you can't get a pint.
Oh well, this is it. So what have you brought along today?
I've got the Lister D with a vacuum pump, and it runs a milking machine.
Well, I never. She'd be still working today, would she?
So I'm looking for a cow.
Oh no! Well, James Galley, what a fantastic exhibit you have here at the Southern Vintage. Tell me, what have you brought along today?
What have I brought along today? Well, most of the exhibits here are all my father's, ranging from like push-along lawnmowers to obviously ones that are run by a petrol engine. But we've also got stationary engines as well. So we've got a Wolseley, we've got a Wolseley stationary engine, we've got a National Gas Oil engine that dates to 1920. And what
will they have used that for, James?
Most of the stationary engines would used to power generators or machinery in farms.
So when these all came along, it made a huge difference to agriculture. No longer the horses.
Basically, like everything's invented for a specific purpose.
And what's your favourite exhibit, James?
What's my favourite exhibit? I would say my favourite exhibit would be some of these vintage stationary engines, because some of them could be also used for powering. We've got one that's powered by a water pump as well. Some of them were built with accessories, also some of them would run electric generators.
Absolutely fantastic. What an absolutely wonderful display you've got here. How many have you got? Do you know how many is roughly in total? There's got to be more than 20.
I'd say, at a guess, probably about 300 and maybe so engines, but Then again, it could be a lot less than that.
This is a lifetime's achievement. You know, this is incredible to have all of these engines tinkered with, acquired over time and maintained and running here for us to see today. You know, like you say, they date back so many years. What's the oldest one you've got?
Well, I would say the national gas oil engine would date to obviously 1920. So that's probably the earliest.
My name is Debbie Galley. I am the current secretary of the Southern Vintage Engine and Tractor Club.
Well, Debbie, what a display of stuff you've got here. Goodness. Are these bits and pieces you've collected over the years while the boys are busy with the lawnmowers and all the other exhibits? These are household things.
Yes, they are indeed. They've been handed down through the family on my husband Bill Galley's side. They didn't literally throw anything away.
Wow.
So yes, it's quite a heritage.
It really is. And just looking on the table here, we've got the kettle for off the Rayburns, the irons, and the irons, not as we know them with the electric behind them, they are just heavy shaped iron.
Yes, women would put them on their ranges in Victorian and Edwardian times, and they would heat them up. Then to prevent clothes from getting scorch marks on them, they would put a metal shoe on them, and then the heat would come through from the iron to the shoe and
away like that, and save them from getting burnt. Yeah. My word, what's your favourite exhibit, Debbie?
I would think the irons, because of their social history. I mean, some of the irons are, of course, much lighter to use, and it's just really interesting to experience the change of weight.
Well, Bill, just chatting with James there, and how many exhibits you've brought along today. How many is there?
There's 50 engines here today. Personally, I've got 50 engines.
Oh my word, a full-time job at home?
Yes.
Yeah. And like James was saying, they're preserving the history and the nostalgia of years gone by for future generations like myself and others to enjoy. It's an absolutely huge achievement for you.
Well, yes, if we didn't do that, I'm saving history from the scrap man. Hopefully. Yes.
But how long would it take you to, go along to one of these scrap sales and find something of interest and then think, oh, I can do this up and getting parts and all the rest of it? How long would it take you?
3 to 6 months per machine.
Really?
Yes.
And are the parts easy to acquire?
Yes, if you know where to ask and you know the right people, because I'm in the UK clubs for this, so I know the right man to ask to get the parts, generally.
So many of these exhibits, would they have come from the island?
90% of them, yes. Over there, at the end, is a blue tractor, and that, we think, worked for the Forestry Board in the 50s.
Wow.
And that's just had a new set of final drive bearings fitted in the last 2 months. Friends from the clubs have helped me, and we fitted it, and it's its first time out today, and it broke down in the ring.
Oh no!
I was towed out, but yes, it's back up. It's there to be seen in the ring. It's there for people to enjoy.
Yeah,
and the main thing is with this, people enjoy it. We do it for people's entertainment.
Yeah. And what would be your favourite exhibit?
Probably the 101-year-old engine there.
Wow, 101
Yes.
years old. It looks like it's brand new.
It's
gleaming, isn't she?
It's had a lot of work done on it and a lot of help.
And what was she being used for?
Originally, the big flywheel on the back, he was on a farm near Kirree, and he drove like a cattle crusher or a turnip chopper or whatever, any sort of, well, no, we haven't gotten here today, any sort of machinery on the farm that needed a belt to drive it, it worked it.
Oh, wow.
That was Bill Galley, the chairman, his wife Debbie, the secretary, and son James, and also Jenny Bean, who had the Singer sewing machines, and Andrea from the Southern Photographic Society.
You wouldn't know how to work a sewing machine, Kirree, would you? Hey?
They were beautiful, but it was absolutely wonderful, the story about the Calf of Man and the ship going down there with the Singer sewing machines on. So if anybody out there has a Singer sewing machine from back in 1923, Jenny Bean wants to hear from you.
You're listening to Countryside here on Manx Radio with Kirree Kermode and myself, Simon Clark. Well, the bats are quite common round the Isle of Man, difficult to spot unless you got the right equipment to detect them, and the Manx Bat Group have such items. I went along to one of their bat counts and joined Nick Pinder from the Manx Bat Group, and well, we're a sort of secret location, but is this one of the places that's renowned for bats?
Well, it's a roost that we know of, and we're trying to do a count. We're just coming up to the start of the annual roost counts. There's a UK national programme every year where they count the bats coming out over the long term. That gives them an idea whether bats are declining or increasing, and we're trying to do our part towards that by doing roost counts at various locations around the island.
So it's not a case of just going out with a group of people this evening and enjoying it. It's actually a task at hand.
Well, yes, but hopefully it's enjoyable as well. I find it so. Occasionally, after about your third one in a week, it gets a bit... you want to lie in the next day, but it's really nice when you do get bats coming out. It sort of lifts your spirits again that the natural world is working properly.
Right, well, we're just on sunset, or it's just gone sunset. I mean, bats won't have watches and things, so do they look out and have a look at see how light it is it?
There is a suggestion that they do what's called light sampling, and they come to the roost entrance and we'll have a look out and see if it's dark enough yet for them to go out, because they're obviously nice sized piece of meat for something bigger that eats meat, and they want to avoid them as much as possible.
The bats around here, I mean, there are several types on the island, isn't there?
Over the last couple of years we found two new species for the island, or confirmed them at least, so we're up to 9 now. 3 species of pipistrelle, 3 myotis, and the 3 L's, long-eared, liselers and lesser horseshoe, which is the most recently confirmed species. So quite exciting times.
We're looking around up at a roof. I feel like Kelly's Eye here, but we're looking up at the top
Yes.
of a roof here, and I can see a small gap, I think, that a few people were looking at near the chimney.
Yes, that's a fairly typical place for pipistrelle bats to use. They like getting between the slate and the roofing felt where it gets nice and toasty warm for them. And this is for their maternity roost, so all the females come together, up to 200 we know of in the island, to have their babies. They just have one baby each, but it's nice and warm in there for the babies.
Right, so the bat detector you've got there, I mean, is that something that picks up the sound when they fly past? Does it register or store it or anything?
Yes, this is quite a fancy bit. And we're very grateful to the Manx Lottery Trust for 6 of the 12 that we now have, because they are quite expensive, because they do exactly that. They automatically tell you what frequency the bat is that it's just recorded. It records the sound on a computer card, which you can then put in a computer program to analyse and decide what sort of bat it is.
There's one, Nick.
Yes. It's good that they've come out and they're not going to disappoint you.
Nick Pinder from the Manx Bat Group, and great to hear the sounds there. We weren't disappointed, Kirree, it was good.
Oh, they are so wonderful, aren't they? Dipping in and dipping out right in front of you. So cheeky, aren't they? But yeah, there's plenty of bats around. It's just knowing where they are, isn't it?
We've had to pack a lot into this week's programme, but if you want to hear the interviews in full, just go to Manx Radio's podcast on the website, powered by Miller Chaps of Ramsey. Go to the podcast and you'll find Countryside in there. You can listen to it in full at your leisure. And we're going to have 4 weeks off, Kirree.
Wow.
Chance for some R&R. See if we can arrange a trip to maybe the adjacent isle down the south of the island. You never know.
It's always very busy down there.
It is. So until then, from me, Simon Clark.
And me, Kirree Kermode.
We'll see you then. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.